What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing?
How you doing?
Fat Jesus. So today we got Philip Mantle here. I said that correctly,
Mr.
right?
Mantle, the famous Mr. Mantle from the UK.
We
Wow,
got
what an amazing. We are graced by Mr. Mantle. I mean, like, we haven't had anybody from the UK since last month or the month before, right? Or who was that?
I can't even remember,
Was
brother.
it about Mars? A lot of great
No,
things are coming out of the UK.
yeah. Philip, I brought up your books. You're also an author, so that's interesting because you talk a lot about UFOs, which is very interesting. I think it's interesting because of the simple fact that a lot of people have this idea that there are extraterrestrials, aliens, or what have you out there. Fat Jesus actually likes aliens a lot, UFOs and stuff like that. So I wanted to ask you, because I was telling you before we were started, I have so many questions to ask you. What got you on this journey to write books and talk about it?
Yeah, good question, gentlemen, and good evening, both.
Good evening.
I had an interest in all things paranormal when I was a teenager, and one of which was a little bit UFOs, if I'm honest. And I left high school in 1974 and messed around for a few years, not knowing what to do. And in the winter of 1978 over into 1979, I went to work in what was West Germany, and I couldn't speak the language, so no sitting down and watching the TV on a night. So I phoned my mum and I said, "Can you send me some books, mother? I like to read." So lo and behold, a box arrives, and it's a box of paperback books, all UFOs.
That was random.
Yeah, so I would read them after work on an evening. I came home the following year in 1979. So I'd got more of an interest and a little bit more knowledge, but only a little bit. And where I live in a county called West Yorkshire, and I used to live about 5 miles from the city of Leeds. And Leeds did then and still does published an evening newspaper called the Yorkshire Evening Post. And my aunt, who lived round the corner, she came round one night with a copy of the paper, and she said, "Have you seen this?" And there was a small ad, and it was the formation coming up that Sunday of the Yorkshire UFO Society. So come Sunday, I didn't drive at this point. I caught the bus into Leeds, found the location where this meeting was taking place, and in I went. There was 20, 30 people there. A presentation was put on by the founders with two brothers, Mark and Graham Birdsall. And that was it, guys. I was hooked. And I was amazed. They had a whole range of books I could buy as well. So I paid my membership, which I think was about £2, $3 for the whole year, And I just went from there. Became involved in the investigation side of things. Years progressed. I gained a lot more knowledge on the subject, interviewed lots of people. And then the question was how I come to start and write books. Well, in the early 1990s, I'd worked with a journalist colleague of mine called Carl Nagatis. And Carl had finished working for the newspapers and was working for himself, public relations. One of his clients was a TV production company in London. And they commissioned us to do a documentary on alien abduction accounts in the UK. So we did a bit of research. We put the idea forward for them, what they wanted. They paid us a small fee, but then the project was cancelled. So I said to Carl, it's a shame that, because it would have been good. But I said, you know what? It would make a good book. Carl said, one of my other clients is a book publisher. So I said, well, if they're interested, we'll do it together. So they were. So I trekked literally around the country, went to Scotland, went to Wales, throughout England, interviewing people who have had these encounters, and I would transcribe the interviews. I had some historical cases as well, files. I passed all these on to Carl. He was responsible mainly for writing the manuscript, and the book was called Without Consent, and that came out in 1994. That was my first book, co-authored with Carl Nagatis. So it came about quite by accident, really, and I was up and running. That was my first book. It came out in America as well. It came out in Italy. It even came out in Romania, believe it or not. They never paid me any royalties, but it came out in Romania. So that's how, guys, quite by chance.
In those
So,
countries, they're very interested in the metaphysical and aliens. I've been up there in Europe and at their conventions and things like that, and they are very interested in the supernatural and everything like that. It's not everyone though, but there is a good following up there.
Yeah, well, I hope they bought my book, even though I didn't get any royalties from it.
you know, so that's an interesting story. So it all started with you just being interested in reading first. That's basically where it started from.
Yeah, I mean, I was from an ordinary family. I have no higher education. I was just finished high school. My father worked down the coal mines all his life. My brother worked in engineering. My sister worked in tailoring. But one thing we always had around the house was books. Right up until my mum passed away, she was a great book reader. So I liked to read anyway.
How old were you when she passed away?
Oh, I was well into my 50s. It's
Oh,
20.
okay. So she
Yeah, it's
lived a
20.
while.
No, I wasn't a young fella. Thankfully, my mum lived till she was 83, so she had a good life. But right up until the last few days, she was still sat in bed reading a book. Yeah, some of the books she had, she'd read a couple of times. So we were brought up with books, and
How was your relationship with your mom? Was it a lot closer than your dad, or was it vice versa?
my dad was my stepfather.
Okay.
My father died when I was 2, so I have no memory of him. And my mum remarried a few years later to my stepdad. He was originally from Poland and settled here at the end of the war after fighting in the Polish army,
Wow.
and fought with the British army as well. And he'd not had any education because the war came. So he used his brawn and went to work down the coal mines. And he worked down the coal mines until he retired. And he lived to be 86. So he was my father as far as I was concerned, and I loved him dearly. And but I was very close to my mum. My mum was from Northern Ireland, so she also had a great sense of humour and encouraged me to read. And when I started to write, she was very proud.
A mother knows
Right,
best.
right.
Mhm.
So,
That's awesome.
so what got you into the spiritualistic side of of this world of the supernatural?
I don't know if I'm into the spiritualistic side as such, but I remember as a teenager, my best friend's grandmother literally lived on the other side of the road from where we did, and she was a great. She had great interest in the spiritualist church, and we had a local one, and she used to go to that on a fairly regular basis. So there was a few times I went with her, and I found it fascinating. I was only about 13, 14 at this point, so I didn't necessarily understand it all. But I found it fascinating nonetheless. Then, when I was working on that first book, Without Consent, which is still on sale, by the way, there is an updated version on sale. I was interviewing abductees around the country. My wife used to say to me, "What time we'll be home tonight?" I don't even know what time I'm going to get there, never mind what time I'm going to be home. But some of these abductees felt there was a a spiritual side to it. And that was them telling me that, not me telling them or asking them. So it was that got me a little bit interested. And there are still some people. I mean, one of the ladies I interviewed for a book, she's a lady called Elsie Oakenson. She became a spiritual healer after her encounter, and she puts it down to what happened to her that night. So I hope that answers your question.
Oh, yeah, it definitely does. And I believe that in our society, there is certain types of leadership. Those are spiritualistic types of leadership in this world and throughout the ages. And I believe that we were visited long, long time ago, throughout thousands of years. And they maintained this spiritualistic connection with us. And they probably even taught us these things. This is assuming I wasn't there. But the thing is that it looks like it was handed down from generation to generation. And Rebirth and I, that's what we do. We talk about these things, the Sumerians. We talk about all these historical events, and it all leads down to these spiritualistic, these societies, and then all of a sudden here we are in modern days, and we're still talking about it. It's not like we forgot about it, and we're still thinking about these ETs, these extraterrestrials, these giants, or these small, the ant people. I mean, they're not just one type and only one looking type of beings. There's all different types, and that just it dawns on me. I mean, what do they want to do with us, and why do they take liberties on us like we're experimentations? Like, like we have no say so on the matter, and they have been doing it for so long. Why can't we say no? Or why? Or can we at least like what you were saying in your book, can we at least go, hey, can you at least tell us what you're doing, so that we can say, oh, okay, proceed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, that's why we called the book Without Consent,
Yeah.
because whatever these things may or may not be, you didn't ask for it. You were about your everyday life, doing your chores, going to work, walking the dog, whatever, when this happened to you without your consent. So that's why we used that title. And of course, the ancient alien or the ancient astronaut theory is still very popular today, made popular, of course, by the late Eric von Daniken, whom I met once.
Rest in peace. He's
Yeah,
actually a friend of the family, a very close friend of the family of mine.
I met him once, and that was at a conference in Vienna back in the 1990s. Lovely guy, lovely man. And of course, I think one of those books that my mother sent me might have been one of von Daniken's books. So he may
Chariots of the Gods.
Chariots of
Probably.
the Gods. A zillion seller in a zillion different languages. So he may be part responsible of why I got interested in this subject. After all, you never know.
And also I read that Steven Spielberg interested you in life as well.
Yeah, I mean, when I was starting to get interested in the UFO topic, of course, what hit the silver screen, and I'm a big movie fan, was Close Encounters. And I remember a friend and I went going to watch it, and I just thought, wow, I know it's fiction, I know all that, but you think to yourself, well, what if? And then I found out that J. Allen Hynek was a consultant on the movie.
That's right.
And I'd read a couple of Hynek's books, or one of them at least. So I thought, well, that gives it an air of credibility, if nothing else. And he has a little cameo in it as well. I never managed to meet the guy. I always seem to miss him. What is I find fascinating. Yeah, E.T. What I find fascinating is that come the 1990s, there was a new version of Close Encounters released on video, high definition or some damn thing or whatever. And I was hired here in the UK to help promote it. And I thought, how crazy is that? I remember sitting in the cinema watching this thing, and here I am, you know, at BBC Broadcasting House helping to promote the new version of it. So it's a crazy old world, is it not?
Oh, it is. I really loved Close Encounter of the Third Kind. I thought it was amazing. And his latest movie, Disclosure Day, was equally as incredible because it didn't display aliens as a threat to humanity. It just it wasn't one of your usual movies like Aliens where we're all going to die or something like that, and some type of craziness where we have to prepare ourselves for an attack or something like that. To me, it was a refreshing movie.
Yeah, I watched it. I won't say anything about it because I'm sure there's people out there that still waiting to watch it. So no spoilers, but I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it, and I'm sure if he's around long enough, he'll visit the subject again at some point. I'm sure of it.
Oh, yeah.
But there's supposed to be other real life movies coming out as well. It's been rumored for a few years that the Betty and Barney Hill story
Yeah,
is going to
that's
Oh
be
yeah,
made into
yeah,
a
yeah,
movie.
yeah. I heard
yes,
about
yeah.
that.
I mean,
Yeah,
I hope
it
I
was a
hope they do
TV
it
movie.
justice. I
Well,
hope
it
they
was
do
a
it justice.
yeah, it was a TV movie, some time back, but
A
it's
documentary, yeah. Mhm.
no, it was a TV movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with James Earl Jones playing Barney. But it's rumored it's being made for the big screen, but it is only a rumor. We will have to wait and see.
That'd be
yeah.
that'd be
There's a couple of points you brought up that is very curious to me. Is the ancient part. Have Okay, you studied the UFO portion as far as reading books, and you spoke to some people and stuff like that. What on the historical side, ancient or not, did you find that something that could be related to UFOs or aliens or contact with humans from
Well,
your research?
if you look back throughout history, and I'm talking way back, not beyond recorded history, is that mankind has always interacted with otherworldly beings, for want of a better word, down the centuries. But we just call them something different. We perceive them something different because our culture is different. 200 years ago, 250 years ago, we may have called them fairies. You know, they were called gods. You know, the gods of Mount Olympus were very real. They weren't imaginary. Um, so there is that aspect to look at, but there is historical accounts. We always say ufology started in 1947 with the Kenneth Arnold sighting, but we know, yes, we use that as a starting point, but we do know that other things were reported prior to that. So there is plenty of history to get dug into if you want to.
well, not to support flat earthers, but I feel like there's some type
Yeah.
of power or strength or a power struggle there with people around the world about Greece and their gods and all these things. The same story is with the Aztecs and the Mayans and the Incas and in Indonesia as well. They all have some type of Mountain Olympus themselves. You know, the gods are in the heavens, and there's some similarities to it. And they have, and the gods have different names, but they almost have the same type of powers, you know.
Yeah,
So so it's pretty wild that they travel all over the earth, but they don't care what they call them. They don't care for the name. So it, another way of looking at it, you can identify their personalities by them not caring what you call them, how you call them, or how people or how earthlings, us humans, would call them or name them. It didn't bother them. They didn't. They had humility to that point when you think about it. It's not like, oh, excuse me, my name is this. You don't have to call me this. You know what I'm saying? It's like, they didn't have this narcissism of themselves. It's like everybody had a certain name for them, but they didn't feel like you didn't have to say their name specifically, and they didn't have to force that name specifically. So they were named differently around the world.
Mm. And what is again rather curious and interesting, one of the abductees in our book, Without Consent, this lady wanted to undergo hypnosis. So we arranged that for her, and the hypnosis was recorded. And she referred to one of the beings as Ezekiel. As we know, Ezekiel is in the Old Testament of the Holy Bible.
Yes.
And she wasn't a religious lady. She wasn't a churchgoer or anything like that. But yeah, she called it Ezekiel, which is fascinating. It may mean absolutely nothing, but it was just an interesting aspect that none of us expected. It just popped up out, and out it came. And
We
make
have
of it what you will.
we have
Let me
podcasts on Ezekiel, and also on the lineage all the way to Abraham and stuff like that. So if you're ever interested, just listen to our podcast, and you'll be very interested on the lineage of Ezekiel, Abraham, and all these other um, people throughout time, and how they experience God.
let me ask you. It's interesting because the idea of UFOs, aliens. Um, and no doubt in my mind, I believe there are some type of UFOs, aliens, or something out there. The only reason why I say that is because mathematically they say there's billions of planets and galaxies and so on and so forth. So if that's true, then obviously there's got to be at least one more, right? If there's just one more, if it's only just two of us, then there's at least one more. But my thing is that I wonder about the idea of where these UFOs may have came from, or whatnot. A lot of people believe that they came from outside of Earth's atmosphere, which makes them extraterrestrial. And then some people believe in the unidentified submerged objects, right?
Mm.
And I'm a big fan of Eric von Daniken. Also, I've read his books many times. I actually have the Ancient Alien book that started the show, or came out when the show came out. So it's basically the first book is basically the first episode. So I'm very familiar with that side of the information that they have on there. And I know a lot of times a lot of people believe some of these aliens, or some people call them the Anunnaki, came from planet Nibiru, which was basically a different planet. But a lot of the text that I've read from the actual, and this just comes from the academic side, because just like you, I've read different books and stuff, and you can't just put your whole faith in just one book. You have to read many books. That's why we have a whole library, right, or two. And I get confused because I know what one side says when they talk about extraterrestrials, and then I hear the academics saying that they came from depths of the sea or inside Earth or something like that. So I wanted to ask you, where do you think these UFOs or aliens are coming from, or do you think that they're both happening at the same time? Some are coming from outside of Earth's atmosphere, and some of them are right here on Earth. It just
Yeah,
depends.
it's an interesting question. I mean, probably over this last 10 years or so, we've learned more about the universe than we did previously. Now, the visible universe is estimated to be over 40 billion light years across. I mean, that's mind-boggling. 40 billion light years across. There's an estimated 2 trillion galaxies. And within those 2 trillion galaxies, of course, there's countless stars and planets.
They have a new
So,
new satellite launching at the end this month, and then beginning of next month, and we should have more galaxies appearing.
oh, it wouldn't surprise me. But then, people then say, well, because the universe is much bigger than we expected, or we previously knew, or imagined even, then the distances between us and any possible life form out there has also increased. So linear space travel, like our car, we get in and drive to point A and B. Linear space travel, is probably out of the question. Not entirely, but probably. So that's why people then look for other answers. Could these things be traveling through space and time in wormholes or something of that nature, other dimensions? Or could they have been here all the time, like Eric von Daniken? They were our gods that we looked up to. But some have also speculated that it's nothing to do with aliens at all. It's actually us, humans from the future. We've conquered time travel, and we come back in time for whatever reason, and that's what we see. So it's make your mind up time, gentlemen. There's a lot of theories.
Yeah, and that's when I say two things can be right at the same time. I believe that you can have two things happen simultaneously. You can have a group of individuals, aliens, UFOs, extraterrestrials, whatever you want to call them, comes from outside of Earth's atmosphere, and then you can have some right here on this planet. I mean, why wouldn't that be possible, right? I mean, can we prove it 100%? Probably not. We can barely prove anything. I mean, people still fighting about gravity till this day, but I can pick up this right here and I can drop it and I know it's going to fall down. So that's all I need to know about gravity, right? But then some people say that gravity also plays a part with people aging and stuff like that. So when we travel outside of Earth atmosphere, we may age slow or whatever the case may be. Have you ever had a UFO experience yourself?
I'm calling it an experience. I observed something that I wasn't sure what it was. On July the 23rd, 1984, I used to work in a factory, and I finished my shift at 10 o'clock that night, and I got in my car, came out of the industrial estate, and it was just one road all the way home. About 3 miles to get home. I was still living with my parents then. And it was a beautiful summer's evening, nice red glow in the sky. And as soon as I got onto the main road, I could see these lights in the sky that I knew shouldn't be there. So I set off in my Volkswagen Beetle. That was my first car. And I knew there was a location about a mile and a half where I could pull the car over, which I did. And I took, these lights were still there. They didn't seem to be moving. So I set off again. Again, about another mile or so was another vantage point where I could pull the car over. And we lived up on the hill. The whole of the city of Leeds was in the valley below us. And to the right was a suburb of Leeds, a little hill called Middleton. And there were these two huge lights just hanging over the town. They were side by side. The left-hand one was slightly larger than the right-hand one. They were like a pearly white colour. There was no noise. This was a busy road as well. There's still traffic going past me. And then all of a sudden they were gone. Just completely gone. And the next day, when I got going to work at 2 o'clock in the afternoon for my shift, some of the guys that I worked with grabbed me immediately because they knew of my involvement in the subject and said, Phil, did you see those lights last night? They'd been driving home a similar route, and lots of people saw them that night. Now, we tried our damnedest to find out what they were, but were never successful. So that's in my new book, by the way. I have a new book out now called UFO Reflections, looking back on some of the things I've been involved in down the years, and that is in there. Because it's a question I'm often asked. Have you seen anything yourself? July the 23rd, 1984.
July 23rd. That's you remember that date because that's your UFO date. I was actually wounded in Afghanistan July 23rd. So there
you go.
An interesting day.
Yeah.
Yeah, July 23rd. Yeah. So yeah, that's my alive date. That's pretty interesting. But it's interesting because of the simple fact that I bring that up because that's actually what started me on my journey on all this stuff as far as, keeping records of it. I've been studying this for, I'm 42 years old now. So probably like since I was like 10 years old. I used to watch documentaries like crazy about these UFO experiences, abductions, and so on and so forth. Trevor Walton, what was it? I can't remember his name now for some reason. But the a couple of abduction stories. Betty and Barney Hill is my favorite. And the only reason why I say that's my favorite, and I've heard so many stories on both sides about how I think the show Twilight or something like that was out at the time, and they might have had watched that, and they're trying to incorporate that into their story and stuff like that. I heard everybody's argument, but what's interesting to me about their story and religion and UFOs is what got me, started, just wanting to learn more about it. But was because in Benny and Barney's Hill time frame, being a black and white couple was looked down on upon, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's something that a lot of people didn't uh, wasn't too fond of at that time, right? And you can get into a lot of trouble, even possibly lose your life. So for them to come out and put national TV on them and the world on them about something that happened to them, just in my eyes, kind of made more things probably more dangerous for them. But uh, that was a risk they was worth taking for something that happened to them. So they had to tell people. So
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
why that story is very interesting to me because of the simple fact of that time frame.
yeah, they had a lot to lose.
Yeah,
Because they were a mixed race couple, which was
exactly,
frowned upon at the time, of course. So
exactly.
in reality, it would have probably been better for them to keep their mouths shut and say nothing, and
Yeah.
not put themselves in the public eye. But the story came out. I never met Betty. I never met her. I did correspond with her a couple of times, so I have a couple of letters from her and some photographs. But a fascinating incident in its own right, of course, and
Mhm.
it's one of the premier uh, abduction accounts in UFO history. And as we were saying
Yeah.
earlier, it's rumored that there might be a movie being made of it. Well, let's keep our fingers crossed there is, and if there is, let's keep our fingers crossed that it's accurate as well.
It was Travis Walton that I was thinking about, the guy that got abducted when they was cutting down trees.
Uh,
That actually that story was that's another fascinating story. But yeah, there's so many different stories out there. One thing that I've learned is that just because I experience something doesn't mean somebody else will experience, and vice versa. So what you experience, I can't say anything about it if I didn't experience it. Um, I've read plenty of books about UFOs and alien abductions. I mean, seen plenty of documentaries, and I've heard every side of the story, but this stuff has been going on for years. For years, probably since the beginning of time, Um, but what's so fascinating about the subject is that, and you're on X too, so I know you join you see some of the arguments back and forth, is that some people want disclosure from the government. They want the government to come out and say, hey, look, hey, aliens are real. um and in so many ways, I think I've heard at least a couple of presidents throughout my lifetime that actually say, yeah, aliens are real, UFOs are real, they have to be. They don't necessarily say they have bodies, or technology. But sometimes they do play with words and they do say they have technology because alien technology could be technology from a different country, and they could be playing with words and stuff like that. And people could be trying to you know use semantics, I guess. But out of all the stories that you've heard, out of all the ones that you've investigated, which one of them strikes you the most? Which one is the one that's holds more heart to the UFO theory?
yeah, again, featured in the new book, UFO Reflections, is a case from the States. from Pascagoula, Mississippi, October the 11th, 1973. Two local guys, Calvin Parker, aged 18, Charles Hickson, aged 42, been working in the shipyard that day and decided to go fishing after work. So they got their tackle, they bought some bait en route. Calvin didn't know the area. Charlie directed him down to the Pascagoula River. Not an out-of-the-way place, gentlemen. It's not in the swampland of Mississippi. There's a bridge goes over the river. There's the shipyard there. There's commercial and industrial buildings around them. They're fishing away on an old pier when these blue lights came from behind them. As they were driving up there, Calvin had commented on a no entry sign, and Charlie says, "Oh, ignore it." So they thought it was the police. They're going to get arrested for trespassing and spend the night in jail. But when they turned around, it wasn't the police. It was a large oval object descending with two lights on its left-hand edge, very bright lights. It stopped just above the ground. An opening appeared, and again this intense blue light came out. They had to shield their eyes. These three bulky-looking creatures emerged from this doorway. Humanoid, head, no neck, the pointed protrusions out of the side and out of the front, long arms, and they glided over towards them. Two grabbed Calvin, one grabbed Charlie, took them on board. Various things happened. I'm cutting a long story short here. They were placed back on the pier and this thing was gone. So they debated for a while. I mean, Calvin was terrified. He was also getting married the next month. And he thought, if this story gets out, my future father-in-law will never let me marry my fiancée, you know. So they decided not to tell anyone. So off they go to drive home. And then it was Charlie who had a change of heart. Charlie had served in the army and fought in Korea. And he said, "We've got to tell the authorities. What if this happens again to somebody?" So they pulled in a little store that had a payphone. So they rang Keesler Air Force Base. They said, "We're not interested." Ring the local authorities. So they rang the police, and they went into Jackson County Sheriff's office and told Sheriff Fred Diamond and his deputies what had happened. So they were interviewed separately. And then they were placed in a room together, and the deputy opened the drawer on the desk and fiddled with something and said, "I'm just going to get some coffee, guys. I'll be back in a few minutes." Which he did. And he went to the drawer again and took something out. Charlie and Calvin had no idea what he was doing. It was actually a tape recording. He'd been recording them secretly, expecting, okay, these two rednecks will get them now. They've been laughing and joking. And of course they weren't. They were crawling up the wall, recounting what had happened. This became known as the secret tape. And then somehow the next day the story got out and went around the world. Now in 2018, I published a book by Calvin Parker. And he was getting on in life. He was not very well. So he wanted to put the record straight and tell his story for the first time. Yeah. So the book came out, and then we started to find out more information, more witnesses came forward. And as it stands, we've interviewed, when I say we, I worked with a lady in Ohio called Dr. Irina Scott, a retired academic. She did most of the interviewing, and we've spoken to over 50 different people from around the area. Some were very close to what happened that night. And for me, there's a lot more to the story, gentlemen. I mean, I could sit here and talk about it for hours.
I can tell you with the full disclosure or partial disclosure here in the United States that people are not forthcoming in coming out and talking about their side of the story. And it takes a community. It's like they say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a village to uphold other people, to communicate with each other, because when you're by yourself or you're not communicating with other people, you don't want to say, "Hey, I saw a UFO," you feel like you're going to be scrutinized, or
Yeah,
people are going to say you're kind of weird. Yeah, that's weird. I didn't
Calvin
see
was
it.
yeah, Calvin was traumatized by the event. You know, a few weeks later, he ended up in hospital,
And then
and
you're going to be more traumatized when people
yeah,
start ridiculing you.
I was ridiculed. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember the TV series The Hulk back in the
Yeah.
1980s.
Oh yeah, I
Mm,
loved
yeah.
it. Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah, and of course Dr. Banner, he was the Hulk, and when the journalist caught up with him who was hunting him, he'd move on to the next town and so on. Well, Calvin did that in real life with his wife and children. And when the journalists caught up with him and wanted a story, he would move on to the next town, find another job, and just try and keep out of the way. Charlie was quite happy to
Wow.
talk about it, but Calvin was traumatized right up until he wrote his book. That kind of lifted a burden a bit, and then he felt vindicated when you got other people come out of the woodwork and say, "Well, hang on a minute. I don't give a damn anymore. You know, I'm 70 years old. I'll tell you what I saw that night as well." And there were a lot of them, and there's still more there.
You know,
Um,
it's not just the alien community or UFO community. It's even academia too. And I know this because I've had a couple of discussions with people who have PhDs, and they work in very respectable, reputable places, universities, and stuff like that. And a lot of them said that, you know, because they don't want to lose their tenure, lose their titles, or, you know, get looked over or something like that. They usually don't tell the full story. Usually, most of the time, people who get paid by an outside source usually are controlled by somebody. That's what most people say. That's why they say disclosure is very hard to come by, because a lot of people are paid. There, um, there's enough money in it to be made that they're able to work together just enough to, you know, have everybody looking for disclosure. I know just from, you know, my my equipment that I use for my history type stuff. Um, the technology that we have today to be able to see certain UFOs and certain stuff like that, um, is great. But we also have technology out there that can, you know, fake it, like AI and stuff like that. A lot of people don't like AI because they say that, one, it takes away from people's jobs, but they forget that somebody has to uh, make sure that AI works correctly. So that actually helps with jobs. So it might take away some jobs, but it might create new jobs, right? But the point is that they don't like AI for certain reasons. And
People don't like to be lied to. That's all.
well, that's the thing. And that's
Cat,
exactly where I was getting
that,
to, is that
catfishing.
you say that, but a lot of people they get told stories by some people where they did lie, and people believe those stories, and they carry that on forever and forever, and the
It's
money.
the after effects of that lie, because when they finally find out that they've been lied to this whole time, or they've been going around portraying that lie, and then afterwards they find out that they're the reason why they were pushing that lie, and it's like that game I was telling you earlier in the other podcast, when when you're standing in line and you pass the word from the front to the back, and then it becomes different and different and different towards the back, and then it's completely different at the end. We all played that game before, in class.
No,
Teachers
what
would
I'm
teach us that. But the thing is that when you tell that lie, everybody laughs. When they play that game, everybody laughs because they know they completely said something completely different. It's foolish, and it's embarrassing. You
No,
know,
I don't think, I don't think most people do it for on purpose. I think a lot of
no,
people
not.
emotions are with it. And I say it's emotional because when you look at religion, a lot of people, they say that if disclosure ever happened, and this was going to be my next question for you too, Philip, after I say this. With religion, if disclosure was to happen, how would that affect religion? Let me ask you, are you a religious individual, and does that play a
no,
part in your belief?
I'm not a religious gentleman at all, but
Okay.
I have spoken to a clergyman about this very aspect, and he just smiled and said, "Well, you know, God created the whole universe.
Mm-hmm.
So they would be God's creatures just the same as we are. And that was it, just acceptance of it. Simple
Yeah,
as
see,
that.
yeah, and that's so strange that you say that, because a lot of people would say otherwise. They would say, well, this person said this and this person would say that. And I always say that not everybody believes the same thing. You can be a holy man, you can be a clergyman, you can be a pastor, you can be a priest, you can be all that and still have this idea of life outside of earth, just because
Yeah,
you understand that God created the universe,
yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
And we have, so, and that's why I say, for me personally, I don't think that religion will suffer from an alien disclosure. I mean, if we look at the Bible, Jesus says that he's not from here, that he's from heaven, that he's from above. And if we look at heaven, like you
I don't
guys were
know
talking
if I'm
about
from
earlier,
heaven, man.
but
I'm right down
he
the
talks
street.
but they say that in the Bible, and it's interesting that they say that, because some people will interpret that as alien or extraterrestrial. I always say this: I'm not a religious person either. Like, when I say religious person, I'm not somebody that follows one religion. I think there's good in all religion. I think there's bad in every religion. It just depends on how you look at it. But my point is that um, when I read the Bible, or when I've read the Bible and I look at these extraterrestrials or aliens, and I understand the definition and the wording of what each of those are, I tend to understand that God is not here from this planet. He's not from here. He doesn't live on planet Earth. He doesn't. This is not his throne. It's somewhere else. So that to me would make him, in a sense, by definition, an alien, because he's not, for one, he's not a man. So that would make him different than us. Then extraterrestrial would be the simple fact that he lives outside of Earth's atmosphere, no matter where that could be. You talked about multi dimensions and wormholes and all that other stuff before, and that's interesting because the show Stargate. Recently rewatched that entire show again, and it's interesting that there's a lot of similarities with ancient history and all that other stuff. So, since you're not a religious man, have you at least try to find something in religion that backs up some of the stories that's in the UFO community and UFO side?
No, it's like religion and politics, and maybe even football as well. I keep away from arguing about it, because there is no right or wrong. I mean, we've got three of us here now. We could all follow different religions, and we could argue I'm right and you're wrong, or we're all right or we're all wrong. So there's no wrong in religion. It's the people that are involved in it that do the wrong, not the religion itself. Christianity just
Exactly.
says,
Is what I explain this all the time. The same thing that you're just saying. It's the people that get it wrong, not the doctrine or the scriptures or the paperwork or the tablets. All those things are written down in a way where it's like layman's terms, but then somebody goes and translate it, and then they get it all wrong. They turn it around, make it into like, okay, now we got to kill all these people. It never said that. It never said that.
No. No, I had friends who are Muslims, and people say, "Oh, Muslims," they say you've got to kill everybody who's not a Muslim. No,
Never said that.
It doesn't say that at all.
You guys are crazy.
It's the fanatics. It's the fanatics.
You're a fanatic. No, that person is a fanatic. And they love it too. They love the attention because they're narcissistic. I bring that up again. That word is very common amongst people that just want attention. And they want all the attention on themselves. And like I said again, these extraterrestrial, they're not narcissistic. They don't want attention. If they wanted attention, they would be hovering all over the place in these big motherships and say, "Look at me," right? I mean, think about it, the psychology of that.
Well, I look at it like this, like Philip said earlier. They could be time travelers, which is a possibility. That's a theory, and I think that first of all, there's a law against doing that. You're not supposed to go back and try time travel. But the ones that do it,
you
no, I'm talking about.
you're the one setting up the laws.
No, I'm talking about. I guarantee you in the future that there's, because it can have repercussions and sometime in the future or something could happen. I guarantee you that it's possible that the technology got so advanced that time travel was possible, but it was only possible and only used for certain things. And the people that are doing that, coming here, they're the ones that are breaking that law and basically getting caught. So because because let's just think about it. If it was open to the people to do it all the time, we would see it all the time. It wouldn't even be a mystery.
It
So
might
there's
just be very expensive, and there's only a few can
and
afford it.
exactly
Like
and
getting in a SpaceX rocket and going into out of the Earth's atmosphere. Only a few people can afford that.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's more affordable now than it was before. It's going to
yeah.
be more affordable in the future because now they can have 100 people in one SpaceX rocket, and soon it'll be like 500 people because they're making it bigger. So imagine how much the fare would be.
well,
And
that's what I'm saying.
if you work for the company, it's going to be free, right?
No, you
Yeah.
never get nothing free working for the company. I ain't never heard of that. I don't know what job you ever had, but you ain't never got nothing free. But seriously, as it does get bigger and more available, there's going to be restrictions on it. It just, our laws start because of something that, I mean, just look at the drones, for instance. The FAA just here, in America, there's certain laws as far as flying your drones, and some of and it's weird restrictions because you can technically fly a drone without having a license in the United States, but once you put it online and and get paid for it in some sense commercially, then that's when you break in the law and you have to have a certain license. So it's the restrictions is different everywhere. And how do you maintain, the integrity of upholding the law? I mean, especially I see drones flown all the time, and I know a lot. I know a lot of these people never took that test. I mean, I'm in the middle of trying to learn how to take that test
You're
myself.
talking about
Eh,
you versus the government, right? Because
No, I'm
you
saying,
versus the people. There are people out there in Kentucky that would shoot your drone. They don't
yeah,
care
I'm
who
not.
you are.
No, I'm not talking. I don't care about that. I'm just saying, just looking at the laws that go with it. Because a lot of people would say, they'll see a UFO in the sky, and it'll be somebody's drone. I mean, there's
Well,
drones out
Yeah.
there that go.
forget drones for a second.
Or you have an experimental one like the one in Fort Lauderdale. There's a guy that has built a flying car. It's a drone,
Yeah, I've
but
seen
it's a
it.
flying car. It's
Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah, you too. You have seen it. That's
yeah.
my hometown, by the way. And
Well,
I
we,
came
we,
from that town.
we
It's
we
beautiful.
mentioned time travel and UFOs. I'll give you an example of where some of this may have come from. The most famous UFO event here in the UK happened in Rendlesham Forest back in the Christmas of 1980. Rendlesham Forest is in Suffolk. There was two military bases either side of it, Woodbridge and Bentwaters. There were British bases, but they were leased by the United States. And on the night in question, some lights were seen descending into the forest, which was public land, wasn't military, but they dispatched um, security personnel from the airbase. Three of them went to the forest. One stayed with their vehicle, and the other two went in. Jim Penniston and John Burroughs. Now, Jim Penniston says that they encountered a triangular craft. It's about the size of a station wagon,
What year again?
1980. So it was a triangular craft about the size of a station wagon. It was just hovering above the ground. It was dark in colour. It was warm to touch, and it had these markings down the side. And he said he walked around it and made a note of it. Now, many years later, Sergeant Jim Penniston, and I believe that this gentleman went under hypnosis. And under hypnosis, he said, these are not aliens. This was us. This was mankind from the future. And that's, that is one of the stories that came out. What is interesting, and I'll leave you to think about this, gentlemen, his colleague, who was only standing a few yards away from him, John Burroughs, never saw any of that. All he saw was some strange lights. Make of it what you will.
That's that. We can definitely end it right there if you want to, because that's right there almost at the hour mark. That was.
Oh man, I have more questions too. Shoot.
Well, no, I think we're going to have to call it there, gentlemen. I have a heart condition. I've got some medication to take.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah.
We could talk all night, but can I just plug my book before we go?
Please.
Will you wait before you plug in your book? Will you come back?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, because people want to hear more from you, and you are absolutely amazing.
Well,
we love what you had to say. We love everything that you brought, and we know that you are a fount of information, and we just scratched the surface. We just barely even got in deep. We just went over. In fact, this is just pretty much an intro of Mr. Philip Mantle. In fact, I just want to say Professor Philip Mantle, because he has so much experience. No, I'm just saying for myself, I think you are a professor because you have so much experience under your belt that you can teach us everything that you have learned throughout all the years and everything like that. Because I don't know what to do.
I'm just a coal miner's son, nothing more. But
I just want to show my appreciation.
Well, no, that's great, thank you. And what I will say is, and this is not a sales pitch, a lot of the things I've been involved in are in my new book. That's why it's called UFO Reflections. Looking back on some of the things I've been involved in down the years. We've mentioned some of them tonight, and people can see how you can get involved in UFO research and some of the things that may come your way, just like I did. I'm just an ordinary fella from an ordinary household. My mom, my stepdad, my brother and sister, stepbrother, stepsister. But this UFO subject has taught me so much. I've made friends around the world through it. My best friend is a Norwegian who I met through UFO Norway back in the 1980s.
That's awesome.
And he's my best friend. Awesome. And I've traveled to places and met amazing people like yourselves who I would never have met had I not become involved in this subject. So UFO Reflections, if you want to know more, that's the book to obtain.
I'm gonna get that copy. I already added it to my cart. Well, I really do appreciate your time and
hear that, everybody. UFO Reflections, you could get it on Amazon.com. And if you have Kindle, you could get it. You could get it unlimited as well. You could read it while you're going to work and on the train, and listen to him speak to you with that beautiful, beautiful voice, that very trusting an amazing voice of his, and communicate. Is it on can you listen to that?
Yeah, you can get it on.
It's an audiobook. Yeah, it is an audiobook. Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic. Do you have an audiobook, Rebirth of the Word?
No, I don't, but I'll get into that later. But yeah, I appreciate it, Philip. Thanks again. I'll let you go. Once again, it was an honor to have you on the show. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure, gentlemen.
Next show, I get to tell you my experience in contacting an extraterrestrial.
Okay, I look forward to it.
So I didn't get a chance to tell you about it this show, but next show we'll get to communicate, and let's see if you can say if I did or did not.
Well, you never know.
All right, gentlemen. Y'all take it easy.
Bye now.
I remember days in the trench. Time to go hard in, time to go all in, time to get my all to this shit. Panamera maxed out, first class flights out, Atlantic to Pacific, yeah, it's lit.
All right, man.